Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the USDA Milk Production Report for March, and I'm recording this on Monday, April 24th. And the milk production report came out, oh yeah, that was the 19th of last week. And so yes, I am way behind and I apologize for that. With the market as crazy it is, I've been kind of focused on something else, but I wanted to get this done before the cold storage report actually comes out tomorrow. But the headline was that production was up about 0.6%. So let's look at it a little bit closer. So when I start looking at the milk production report, I always start out by looking at how did the federal milk marketing orders change. And just as a raw weighted average across all the orders, milk was up about 2.5%. Now we knew there was some depooling. And when the depooling happened, that meant that more milk came into the pool. So we ended up with a very high increase of milk production month over month. And so when you stand back and say, what did the regions do that weren't depooling? Northeast was about flat. Northwest was up about 1.2. Florida was up 1.5. Couple of these were actually down. So I said, let's just go with 1% month over month and see how that is going to compare. So when I did that, I came up with here are the February numbers, and here's our typical numbers. So 1% above that 631 gives us that 638. And so once you've got the daily production, and the milk per cow normally comes up about 0.7. And so once you've got those two numbers, you can back calculate cow numbers. And I thought cow numbers would basically be flat or maybe down, just a little bit. So again, 9,413,000. Now, if we look at StoneX, they were very close. I mean, these are just right on top of each other. They had daily production at 639, total production, 19,795,000. Production per cow at 67.77. So again, and cow numbers at 9,416,000. Now, when it came out, there were a couple of surprises, but at the end of the day, production was up about 1.2%. So it came in very close to what I had as a typical number and what StoneX did. And where the difference came in is USDA kind of surprised everybody with bringing cow numbers up to 9,435,000, which was about 20,000 more than we were expecting. And that actually offset by having a little bit less milk per cow. But at the end of the day, production was up about 1.2%. And so if we look at just some of these numbers, this is the milk per cow. And it came in just exactly as we had expected. It came up a little bit. And again, these are the previous ones, and we can see that they all came up just a little bit. Now, what's unusual about this is we were actually below the trend line, and it's actually considered an outlier for that trend line. But I think what's happening is our trend line is actually starting to flatten out a little bit. So we had some significant rises in milk production through about 2021, and now I think it's starting to just kind of flatten out a little bit. And so cow numbers came up to this 9,435,000. We're up from 9,404,000 a year ago. But the biggest piece is the amount of variability and noise in this system is much more than most people would actually believe. And when USDA comes out with their quarterly reports, they come out with an estimate of the root mean square, which is zero point 0.1. That's about 9,000 cows. And so that's 0.1 of, 9,400,000 cows. So they're plus or minus about 9,000 cows. And if they look at the differences from the first and the last estimates, they're smallest, they were dead on, but the largest was, they were off by 26,000 cows. So there's a lot of noise in this. So for me, this is just a kind of random noise, and I don't think cow numbers have significantly increased, but they're just kind of hanging in that 9.4 something. And then just to kind of top that off, we look at the slaughter data, and this last one was the April 8th, and we were at 61,683, which was right in line with where we'd been historically. And what I build is this channel of 32 to 34% call right now. The replacement rate, you need to add about, let's say, 6 or 7% for deads on there. So it's going to give us about a 40% replacement rate. But we're right back into this right now. And I think whenever we're in that red box, we're actually pretty stable. Up here, I would have thought that we were losing cow numbers a little bit, but we actually didn't. But the higher numbers allowed us to call just a few more numerically. All right, so I consider this report pretty typical. It doesn't have any major changes in the industry, and everything came in just as we would have expected it to for a March. All right, so tomorrow we're going to have the cold storage report. That'll kind of give us an idea of how much more cheese and butter is going into the refrigerator. And then the third National Dairy Sales report for April, and then we'll close that out. But we are starting to price May a little bit, so that's going to be interesting to see how, this downward pressure on the market kind of holds into the May contracts. All right, that's it for me.